the ultimate moment came when my wife and I went to Holland, to Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in Amsterdam. It's the middle of the winter, and we're down in the whatever they call it, the downtown area, the red light area, and we're walking around. People are hawking. Here's mushrooms, and here's and red lights, and girls in the window, and all that. And somebody came up and said, "I've got some mushrooms."
Mm-hmm.
And by that time, I'd gotten real paranoid because there were no other tourists in downtown except Elizabeth and I. And I kept saying, we're at the bottom of the food chain. Everybody wants to. And we ran back to our room, ingested the mushrooms. She saw world peace, and I saw demons coming out of the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Oh, it was terrible.
Wow.
And we got out of Amsterdam as quickly as possible. And I know now, I wrote a play, a screenplay, in which a hero has a military background, big hero, has a heart attack, is dying, and is on his way to dying, and the white cloud, and mom, and he's there, come on, son, it's okay. And suddenly reverses and becomes demonic. And he's lucky, and he's being pulled by the devil, and he's screaming and yelling, and finally they get him back. He's alive, but now he's afraid to die. And that's the story. He becomes the worst coward. He sacrifices his family and everything, so he won't die because he's seen how awful it is to die. Well, I saw demons coming out of the wall. I never wanted to taste another mushroom again.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Chinwag with me, Paul Giamatti, and Stephen Asma. Our guest today, Mr. William Shatner.
This is a hero of ours, the great William Shatner, a man who transcends description. He's an Emmy award-winning actor, writer, director, recording artist, humanitarian, and space traveler.
Correct, Steve. In his 92 years, there's very little this man has not done. He's a dynamo.
And he's made a wonderful documentary of his life, You Can Call Me Bill.
He is also the host of The Unexplained, which is a series on History Channel. And episodes of The Unexplained are available on Netflix.
And this episode of Chinwag, we've got everything. There's discussion of the soul, death, reincarnation, tequila, Buddhism, Shakespeare.
LSD. Don't forget LSD. Do dogs have souls? It's incredible. We cover the gamut. We cover everything. It is indeed our great honor to speak directly, mano a mano, with the extraordinary Mr. William Shatner. Hello, Bill Shatner.
Hello, Bill Shatner.
Hello, Bill Shatner.
And I'm going to call you Bill because it's right in the title of your film.
That's right. You can call me Bill, and my album is called Bill, so that must be my name, right?
Well, happy birthday, Bill.
Yes, happy birthday. Happy belated birthday to you.
Yeah.
Paul, let me ask you a question.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the wonderful movies you did, and I followed a lot of them. You're one of these wonderful actors.
Wow,
totally admirable. Was the wine movie? I don't remember what the title of it was.
It's called Sideways. Yes.
Do you drink wine? Do you have a sophistication about wine?
I don't have a sophistication about practice. No sophistication about anything. I don't really drink wine anymore. I used to. I wasn't a big wine aficionado. I don't drink it now because it gives me a headache. Now, when I drink it, I don't drink scotch anymore because it gives me a headache. What I can drink now, and I drink plenty of, is tequila and mezcal.
And that doesn't give you a headache?
No. In fact, that gets me peppy, and it makes me feel good, and I don't feel bad the next day or anything like that.
I was at a tequila tasting in Mexico about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and part of that tasting where they show you how they roast the agave plant, and then they boil it, and then they age it. So this young man who had this small tequila making place instructed us how to drink tequila. First and foremost, very much like wine, you breathe in empty. Okay,
Really?
You're just preparing your taste buds. Then you sip the tequila, and again, pass, if you'll excuse the expression, pass air over the tequila, and then swallow it.
Right.
And the difference, and they brought in a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old tequila, which isn't aged that much.
No.
And it was beautiful. It's a beautiful alcohol when the
it is
there.
It is. I'm told that it's the only one that is not a depressant, that it's actually a stimulant. No. But somebody told me that's nonsense, that they're all depressant.
Alcohol is alcohol, right?
Yeah, it's all distilled the same way, I think.
But the quality, but agave could have a different quality to it, couldn't it? Couldn't it have a stimulating quality? Because it feels more stimulating to me than other things I drink.
Because it doesn't give you a headache.
Well, it not only doesn't give me a headache, it actually makes me feel, it makes me feel quite like bouncy. I get kind of nutty. I get a little bit sort of carried away with myself when I have that. And mezcal even more.
Talk to me about drinking. Talk to me about alcohol.
Yeah, this is interesting. And I was going to ask you, do you drink wine as well?
See, I don't think you need to drink enough wine to give yourself a headache. The concept behind wine,
just a little, Paul.
No.
A little tiny wetting of the tongue gives you the sophistication that is part of the winemaking. So you taste it, you have the foretaste, the taste, the aftertaste. It becomes a complex thing, a work of art that you're looking at like a painting.
Yes.
So you can't just pass by a painting, oh, it's a nice painting, and go on. If it's a great painting, you have to taste it, right?
I understand that, but it begins to lose me when you're doing the thing of like, I'll take a sip and spit it out. It's like
they're only spitting it out because these guys who are wine tasters don't want to have that. They get a headache, so they spit it out because they're drinking a lot. But you and I are just tasting the complexity of it.
The philosophers say about wine that the ancient Greeks, like Socrates, they're always drinking wine during the dialogues and stuff. And they would say their wine was like much more concentrated than our wine. And they'd be like, if we're going to talk about something serious like justice, then we have to cut the wine with water. So we add some water. But if we're going to talk about love, then you just drink it straight and everybody gets annihilated.
Now that's apocryphal, isn't it? I mean, that is.
I know. That is actually true.
Is that actually in the like Socratic dialogues? Do they say we got to cut the wine?
Yes. In one of the dialogues, I think it's the symposium where they're going to talk about love. They're like, well, if we're going to talk about love, then we can drink the wine straight and we don't have to cut it with water.
I know, but if you really look at that realistically, you're getting a whole different view of that philosopher.
Yeah.
Who needs the full energy of wine to become a lover. And to think he only needs half of that. But what does he think about love? What does he do then? When he philosophizes about love, what does he drink?
Are you saying right?
Yeah, tequila.
That's what I'm saying about tequila. Is it gives you the bounce.
Yes. But Paul, that's not how you make love.
No. I understand that. Well, I don't need it. I'm not saying I need it.
No, you're saying you need it.
No, I don't. I'm not saying.
Listen, your being is saying you need it.
No. I'm not saying. Listen, here's a question I have though about mezcal, tequila, those things. What's the one? I always thought that legendarily one of those things had a worm in the bottom of it, and you'd eat the worm, and it was
not vermouth, the
Cuervo.
No, the stuff that drives you insane.
That's absinthe. You're saying,
absinthe.
No, absinthe is made from wormwood. I think.
Oh,
what it's made from is.
You're right.
Have you ever had that stuff? Have you ever had
absinthe? Yeah. It'd make your legs go numb.
I think it's regulated by the government. I think you get a certain kind of absinthe here that isn't the one that drove the poets mad.
I think
they
you're
really
right.
did. They really blamed a lot of like insane shit that happened.
There was something about that real and that original absinthe. There was something in there.
it was essentially like a poison. I think,
Van Gogh was drinking it,
or something like that. Lead.
It was essentially a poison.
Yeah.
But that worm, I think, is in mezcal or something like that. And if you eat it, it has hallucinogenic properties. Oh, really? Supposedly.
Well,
supposedly.
Is that before or after you eat the worm? Do you have to have hallucinate before you eat the worm?
I would say that's interesting.
Like, this is a great French fry. Where's the ketchup for the worm?
That's an interesting perspective on it. I think you have to eat the worm and then you start tripping balls and you start really getting.
Then you feel bouncy at the end.
Hey, have you ever, Bill? Have you ever done hallucinogens over the course of your? I don't know if this is like an appropriate question or not, but what the hell?
Well, I tell you what I did do. No, I smoked. When I was at the beginning years at university, and we were doing college musicals. One of the guys was a student in chemistry, so he'd bring over raw alcohol, and we'd have fruit juice, like grapefruit juice, to mix it. I was the official taster as to when it was good. By the time I said, "Yeah, that's good," I was on the floor. So 3 or 4 times of being the official taster and having puking and being so sick the next morning, I thought, what's the good of this? Why am I doing this? So I stopped that. Then later on, grass, and I thought that was interesting, and it was it kept telling the same joke, and we laugh, and we said, "You ever do that?" Laugh, and then you say, "Hey, did you hear the one about?" And you tell the
I don't need weed to do that. I'll just do that without weed,
with a little mezcal. So, yes, but the ultimate moment came when my wife and I went to Holland, to Amsterdam. Mm-hmm. And now we're in Amsterdam. It's the middle of the winter, and we're down in the whatever they call it, the downtown area, the red light area, and we're walking around. People are hawking. Here's mushrooms, and here's and red lights, and girls in the window, and all that. And somebody came up and said, "I've got some mushrooms." Mm-hmm. And by that time, I'd gotten real paranoid because there were no other tourists in downtown except Elizabeth and I. And I kept saying, we're at the bottom of the food chain. Everybody wants to. And we ran back to our room, ingested the mushrooms. She saw world peace, and I saw demons coming out of the wall.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Oh, it was terrible.
Wow.
And we got out of Amsterdam as quickly as possible. And I know now, I wrote a screenplay in which a hero has a military background, big hero, has a heart attack, is dying, and is on his way to dying, and he's and the white cloud, and mom, and he's there, come on, son, it's okay. And suddenly reverses and becomes demonic. And he's looking, and he's being pulled by the devil, and he's screaming and yelling, and finally they get him back. He's alive, but now he's afraid to die. And that's the story. He becomes the worst coward. He sacrifices his family and everything so he won't die because he's seen how awful it is to die. Well, I saw demons coming out of the wall. Yeah. I take another mushroom again to see a demon.
No, I had a similar thing happen with LSD when I'd done it a couple of times, and then I did it once, and literally I thought I was being hunted by an animal in the room. I thought there was a wolf in the room. I thought there was
explain that a little more. You had two good.
I had some good. What must have happened is I must have gotten a hold. Well, I think more like what you said your wife was having, a sort of euphoric thing, a sort of I saw the wholeness of the universe. I felt at one, and I had sort of a pleasant, the things were colorful and fun, the hallucinations. It was sort of leprechauns and rainbows and shit like that. And then, but then I had this one that was genuinely terrifying. And I don't think I've ever been the same since, actually. I felt like it it broke something slightly.
Well,
I'm not kidding.
A blood vessel.
Probably, yeah.
Which is why you get bouncy when you.
Which is why I get bouncy when I drink the mezcal and the tequila. But that's extra. How long ago was that you did the shrooms? That was
10 years ago.
Really? Oh, that recent.
Well, I had smoked grass on and off, and I remember that every week when we met at this guy's apartment, he'd have some cake and a half a dozen guys, and we'd smoke grass and talk, and kept telling the same joke. When I realized the joke was, by the way, somehow there was a article in one of the papers saying some fishermen in the middle of the sea, the boat goes down, and there's treading water in the ocean, and suddenly they feel something underneath their feet, and that thing that's underneath their feet pushes them towards an island, and they don't drown. And they were so happy about it. And the joke that we had between us was, imagine you're treading water in the ocean, and suddenly there's something on your feet, and you stand there and say, oh, this is great, push it. I don't know what you would do, but I'd be screaming, get the hell off!
Right. And this was the joke.
And these fishermen said, oh, that's great. There's a sea creature.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Now you were in Canada when this was happening. This was Canada.
You remember I was smoking grass. So
exactly.
No, I was in the States. I was in the Los Angeles.
Oh, you were here in America. Okay. I want to talk about this screenplay, the idea, though, that you just talked about, because that's fascinating. And actually, it's interesting. And Steve, you might know something about this. And I'm just going to say this because it made me think of something interesting, that what you described, actually, I'm very interested in Buddhism and stuff like that.
So am I.
The Tibetan Book of the Dead, actually, is a kind of guidebook for when you die, essentially.
For when you die? After?
For actually the moment what I think, and Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong on this, you die and you're meant to sort of read the Book of the Dead to the dead person, because they are now journeying into a series of afterlives.
The Bardo area.
The Bardo, it's called. And each one of them, you're confronted by, oftentimes, a light, the white light, things like this. But frequently, if you're not meant to die at that moment, you will be confronted by a demon. You will be confronted by something that is a manifestation of what you didn't do exactly right on Earth.
Confusing. You take the last breath. You know what Timothy Leary said was, I don't, it may be apocryphal, but to me it doesn't matter. You know what Timothy Leary did? He took his last breath, opened his eyes and said, of course, and died.
Well, I'd like more information than that.
Yeah, I know.
What? No, sorry.
What, of course?
He's on his trip to read him the Book of the Dead. So, I mean, if he's on it, if you're dead, or you're going through passages, do you go through passages when you die? You got to through enough passages when you're alive.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's still a journey that's going on, and it's about you're either going to make it to nirvana or you're going to have to come back.
It's a little late. You're dead. And here's chapter 2. Don't go.
I know. But they don't. But they think you're still journeying along. So
you're unconscious.
I think a monk will come in and read the book to the dead person.
Yeah.
They will read it to the person, to the corpse that's lying there.
You have to live in a Buddhist.
You're not going to find it in Tibet, that's for sure. There's not many of them left in Tibet.
Because in your documentary, Bill, you are like thinking a lot about death and sort of the end and what the journey might be. And I'm just wondering, like, you're in the autumn of your years, as they say. Is this like something
that's leaves already fallen?
Is this something on your mind? And do you think there's an afterlife, or you're like, forget it? I don't know.
So you're talking about death.
Yeah.
So I apparently I said somewhere not too long ago, I'm dying. Well, what I meant was we're all dying.
Yeah.
And I'm 92 years old, so I may be in front of both of you. Maybe not. You may walk to the front door and get hit by. So
thanks.
Well,
great.
it might, but we're all dying, and the length of time we have is so minute. Whether it's me or some kid, in the grand scheme of things, the time is a blink of the eye. So that we're all dying, and if we all keep that in mind, that all this beauty around us, no matter what our circumstances, life, the apprehension of life, the apprehension of life is so beautiful. And I don't mean, because this is an easy statement for the three of us, given what we're looking at in our backgrounds. It's easy for us to say, oh yeah, life is beautiful. It's not beautiful if you've got flies in your eyes and you're brushing away terrible diseases. And yet I've got to believe that there's something about life that if you just, you're conscious, you're aware of the enormity. I mean, we are the witnesses to this awe and mystery. We don't know of anything else. We presume there are on other planets, but maybe not on this planet. We're the only ones who are saying, well, yeah, we're dying, and there's this awe and mystery, and there's this universe, and how did it come about? And we're filled with the mystical questions that not only the bardo asks, but every human being asks. Where am I going? What am I doing? And some of it's written down and becomes a major religion, but we're all asking that question. What the hell am I doing here? Why am I here? Can you imagine the lady brushing flies away from her baby's eyes and saying, what the fuck am I doing?
I would absolutely, yeah.
Is this worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes. So the question is, my eternal question for the two of you is, how do you know the moment you're dying that you're dying? You've never died before. You've never had the experience. It may be just indigestion. I'm dying. No, sweetheart. You've got a little acid reflex.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm terrified to die. So like you're saying, I think I'm constantly thinking, I'm dying or I'm gonna die. But that actual moment of dying,
well, you don't
I have
know it.
no idea. But I've seen people die. I watched my mother die.
What was that like?
Well, it was fascinating. I mean, it was kind of astonishing. But she
describe it.
Well, but it's interesting because she arrived at a point. She had a terrible struggle with cancer that was quick, relatively.
Where was the cancer?
It was all over the place. It was breast cancer that metastasized all over the place.
So it affected her brain is really what I'm asking.
Eventually, so that's interesting. Eventually it did. So that was a question. And in fact, she was a lifelong Democrat, and she had voted for some reason for George Bush, the younger Bush. This is when she died. And when she was first diagnosed, it had already gone into her brain slightly. And we'd all been saying to her, why'd you vote for George Bush? And when she found out she had cancer in her brain, she said, I had cancer in my brain. That's why I voted for George Bush. But anyway, so to what extent that actually was...
That's why I'm a Republican.
That's why I voted Republican. So, but the interesting thing is, at a certain point, the struggle of it became so awful for her that she decided, but she knew, I don't want to do this anymore.
That's how my dad was too.
Yeah. And so there was the
pain.
Pain was so extraordinarily bad that
and they couldn't give her morphine or anything like that.
They did do that stuff. But
that'll kill you too. Because
then eventually they bomb you into a coma.
Yeah.
So in a way, I don't know what she thought, because at that point, she was so exactly. But it was interesting to me that she reached a point where she said, maybe not I'm ready, but I've had enough.
Yeah, well, I can understand that. I mean, we're all, in the dark of the night, oh my God, I've had enough of this. But you don't get, or they stand. No. My granddaughter is in London, going to college in London, a small college in London. She's walking across a bridge, and a lady is standing on the edge of the bridge about to throw herself into the Thames.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And my granddaughter, Kaya, runs up and grabs her and pulls her off the bridge. And Kaya's 19 years old. She doesn't know what to, and she prevents this woman from taking her life. And the police come and take the woman back to her home. The question that I thought that I didn't ask is, did Kaya do the right thing?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if your mother is asking to die,
yeah,
and actually, that's another plot that of a screenplay that we've already written. If your mother's asking to die, we know that the laws prevent you. On the other hand, human nature, human kindness, your relationship with your mother demands that you help her.
The most humane, the most loving, compassionate, humane thing we could do was help her die. Was help her die.
But then you're arrested for murder.
Yeah, they do. In a hospice now, there's a combination of drugs that are administered. One of them is morphine, and then the morphine, I just watched my dad go through this. So that the morphine...
Did your dad die?
Yeah, he died.
As a result of this?
Well, he was dying of lung cancer, and he went into hospice.
But the morphine helped him along.
Yeah, the morphine helps you along.
Yeah.
And then they give you this stuff called Haldol, because the morphine also... And as you're dying, you start to hallucinate. Like he started to say things that were referencing his Catholic childhood. And I would ask him, like, "Are you okay?" And he'd be like, "Holy Mother Mary and Joseph." And I'd be like, "Are you comfortable?" And he's like, "I'm comfortable." But he was clearly on some kind of journey.
Well, he was on a journeying through his mind.
Journeying.
He was journeying through he was having the journey of his life.
Yeah.
Like life was flashing in front of him. We were talking about this. My wife's mother, her last sentence was, "I've always wanted to fly." And she died.
Wow.
Amazing.
That's
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'll tell you, my mother, the last thing my mother said, and she spelled it out on a sort of board that they had where she could sort of point to letters because she was in such pain she couldn't really speak much anymore.
She spelled it out.
Yeah, and she was a high school English teacher. This is kind of eerie. And she was, and what she spelled out was, "Now is the winter of my discontent." Those were her last. Those were her last words.
Wow. I wonder if that's applicable.
I don't know.
You know, when Richard III says that, he says that because he's really upset.
Yeah.
But he's discontent.
Yeah, I don't know why she said it.
Well, but think about it. What now is the winter. I mean, you can be discontent with your life so much that it is the last moment, the worst moment of your life.
Yeah, well, in a sense, she was saying, "I've had it. I've had it," because he's saying, "I've had it." Yeah, right. He's saying, "I've had it" at that point too. But he goes off and kills everybody. But she died. Yeah. Question for you about Shakespeare: did you do a lot of Shakespeare as a young man?
With a classical company in Stratford, Ontario. Alleged to be the great classical company on the North American continent.
Yeah, and you did a lot of that stuff. And
I worked with Tyrone Guthrie. Do you know that name?
Sure, absolutely.
I worked with Tyrone Guthrie. I won the Tyrone Guthrie Award. I was like a fair hair boy there.
Amazing.
And went to Broadway on a play by Marlowe.
Oh, which one?
Tamburlaine.
Oh, wow. That's a crazy play. Wow. They never...
By Guthrie.
That's amazing.
One of those enormous, who was an operatic director.
Nobody does that play. That's a crazy play. It's a huge, long play, Steve. Do you know? It's a
play.
I know Dr. Faustus, but I don't know Tamerlane. I don't know that one.
Tamerlane's about this kind of crazy Central Asian conqueror. He's like Genghis Khan or something. Did you play Tamburlaine?
No, I played his aide. It was a really good part, and that was the beginning of my American career. The people noticed me, and I got great notices or good notice, whatever it was. And agents came after me, and I stopped being a Canadian actor and became an American actor then.
Amazing.
And Paul, you've done Shakespeare. Have you done Marlowe? And what Shakespeare have you done?
I haven't done much. I played Hamlet, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about like a guy who dies and says, you know, basically, of course, at the end, and then doesn't tell you what he's seeing. But I played Hamlet, and I've done other little parts in Shakespeare and stuff like that. Did you ever play Hamlet?
No.
Bill?
No.
Really?
I played Henry V. It was my high water mark. I understudied everything. You know, I was a young actor, and there were great actors there in front of me.
Yeah. Amazing.
In your documentary, you were talking about, and Paul and I have talked about this before too, that in a way, memorizing the lines is like the crucial responsibility that you have to the piece.
That's the work.
That's the work.
I'm sure I speak for all actors. Memorizing, and then not only memorizing the words, but you've got to retain the words.
Yeah.
So you might go the weekend and come back on a Monday or Tuesday, depending on when you go back. When the theater opens up after a weekend, and you come into your dressing room, and unless you're going to go over the lines, there's always the little that you won't remember a key word and a key.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, forgetting the words is the terror of the actors. And Olivier, the consummate Shakespearean actor, stopped going on stage for 5 years because he got so afraid of going up.
He got stage fright, which is
really
extraordinary. Yeah, apparently.
Stage fright of not remembering the words.
That's what it was. It was not remembering the words.
Yeah.
But, for me, a lot of the time on stage, one of the most exciting things that happens is forgetting your lines, or somebody forgetting their lines, or something going wrong. No, I'm serious. I always really liked it on stage when something went wrong, because all of a sudden everything came alive again, because it would shake you out of.
Yes, but that's a really interesting. You always liked it, and I'm thinking the audience liked it.
No, but they may not. But they may not notice it. That's the thing. They may not notice it.
Well, if your gestures and if your looks are, if your everything is like in the character, and suddenly you're going,
oh no, I think it's but it can also. But if you lose it and start laughing on stage, it can actually be one of the best things that happens on stage. It can be. Oh no.
No.
This is interesting.
I'm a believer in freeing the actor, but not in a play going 8 times a week and every other actor is depending on you.
Oh, I don't know, because I think a lot of the time you get stuck in a rut. Sometimes when you've done the play over and over and over again.
The rut is called freezing the play.
Wait a second.
Can I tell you a story about not freezing a play?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm on Broadway. I'm on Alarm. I'm 2 years in a play. And there's this Australian Olympic swimmer who's got a featured role, and he's got one laugh.
What? There's an Australian swimmer in this play? What is this play?
He's an actor.
Okay.
It was called The World of Susie Wong. And
okay.
For 2 years.
Okay. Yeah.
So he and I are playing this thing, and he's got a laugh, and then I don't even remember whether on opening night he put his hand on my shoulder, but he might have or he might not have. Subsequent to the 2-year run, every time he would put his hand on my shoulder, if he got a laugh, because we know how delicate a laugh is.
Mm-hmm.
A laugh is as delicate as cancer.
Yeah.
So if he didn't get a laugh, he'd hit me with a powerful Olympic arm on my shoulder. And if he did get a laugh, it would be a tap, which is bad enough anyway. So one day I said to him, that slap on the shoulder was never there opening night. I said, well, this whole scene becomes a slap on the shoulder. Can you stop? He said, no. I said, what? No, I'm not going to stop. So I went to the stage manager. He's hitting me on the shoulder. No, he's not. The stage manager goes, I go to the director, the great director. And then I go to the great producer. And then I go to the union.
Really?
Yeah. He's hitting me. No, there's nothing we can do. He's not going to stop. So about 2 or 3 weeks later, I said to him, the actor, if you hit me one more time, and what am I going to say?
Yeah, I'm going to hit you back. Yeah.
I was pretty handy. So he hits me, and I hit him back.
Well, on stage.
The curtain comes down, on stage. The curtain comes down like it's supposed to, and the headlines the next day is 2 Broadway actors fighting on stage.
Amazing.
That's great.
And the addendum to that story is the producer comes in. This dressing rooms, for those in your audience who don't know, a dressing room is like a little square of cement. And a fire door, which closes automatically. So all the actors put a wedge so they were not locked in this 12 by 12 room. So the door is always open.
Yeah.
So the producer's now in my room saying, well, what happened? And in walks the Australian swimmer. And he kicks the wedge out from under the door. The door slams shut. Now the three of us are locked in a cement room.
Wow.
And escape. At which point, I'm now a believer in the animal within us.
Yeah, go time.
Him, and I saw his jugular, and I wasn't going to hit him. I was going to bite him on the throat and tear his jugular.
Oh, holy
Fantastic.
shit!
Yeah, because this guy's going to kill you.
Said, wait a minute, and he got him out of there. But in that moment, I realized what animals we really are.
Yeah,
we really are.
In that situation, it's one thing to say, give me your wallet. You say, well, okay, here's my wallet. Or something. Yeah. But it's another thing to be so animalistic.
Yeah.
Such a basis of self-preservation.
Yeah.
Back to that Aboriginal nature.
That's extraordinary. That's an extraordinary story. And you're accusing me of unprofessionalism because occasionally I laugh on stage, and you cold-cocked an Australian championship swimmer during the World of Susie Wong.
And wanted to bite his jugular?
And you wanted to rip his throat out with your teeth?
No, Shatner, but the curtain came down.
Okay.
As he fell, the curtain came down at the same
Okay. But did you knock the guy out? Did you?
I don't think I knocked him out. I think, if I remember correctly, he got up and swung at me. I ducked, and he hit a prop man in the head.
Holy cow.
Oh, and then the curtain came down.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
By that time, the curtain was down.
Oh, my God.
It was happening, man. I've never forgotten that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Fanta, I see you perform still, though, a lot in front of live audiences, which is great.
That's 3-4 times a week.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's a lot of your own.
I'm in front of an audience sometimes doing what you and I are doing right now.
Yeah.
Just hoping to amuse and amaze them so they'll stay around for an hour and a half.
Yeah, and it's much more exciting, isn't it, though? I mean, did you ever feel the same kind of
two different things, Paul.
It is. No.
You're in a play by Shakespeare, and you start laughing.
No.
Who's the professional here? I think we see who the professional is.
It's fun to laugh. To be or not. What's the next phrase?
No, you completely, deliberately misunderstood what I was saying. You've deliberately misinterpreted what I'm saying. No, but did you ever get the same satisfaction acting on film that you've gotten acting in front of front of an audience? Have you really on film?
Don't you have satisfaction in that commercial? Pretending to be
Einstein.
The satisfaction was purely monetary, Bill.
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
Are you kidding me? No, the satisfaction was completely fiscal. No. So I was. Let me tell you. Yeah.
We won't tell them.
Oh no!
How much?
No!
What's
I'm talking about 11. No, but wait a minute. No. But I'm trying to talk about something serious here, but I never have felt the same. Yes, I have fun. I'll have fun. I laugh a lot, not while but I don't ever get the same satisfaction, quite the same thing. It's a different kind of satisfaction. Well, it's more like, okay, I did that well. That was a job well done that day. I got that right. I got that little moment right. But I don't think I ever quite get the same kind of thrill on a movie set with doing it. I mean, it's a different thing. I don't think I ever get that sense of the connection.
That's too bad, because movies give you the freedom of laughing. Movies give you you can, and the good director says, "Oh, that's good. Let's try another take without the laugh."
I got a question here for you, which is it's a tying it all together here. Now, you mentioned in the documentary, and it had a big impact on me.
The documentary. The documentary is called "Just Call Me Bill."
The documentary is called "Call Me Bill."
It's awesome.
It's fantastic. It's really great.
Yeah,
thank you.
But you talked about
really great.
The ability to hold on to your inner child. And the idea of because honestly,
my inner child right now, by the way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You have to have some sense of curiosity and playful, and long term, over the course of your career. And I'm just wondering, why is it hard for people to hold on to that? Why do we lose it?
But I liked what you said, that curiosity is love, which I thought was an amazing thing that you said.
Love of life, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Wow, look at this and look at that. And how does that because everything is doing that. Everything it has life,
Mm-hmm.
that is part of life, whether it's slime or mankind,
Mm-hmm.
is wow. Look, I've got to live. I'm going to live. The imperative of living is there, and although we try and blanket it and caution it, essentially all mankind is striving to live. That means making money in order to buy the food. It's just a generation removed from hunting on the savannah.
Yeah.
But I think that also, like, the reason why I think it's hard to sustain the curiosity that you have as a kid is that all these institutions, they don't reward it. They actually penalize you because you're
That's
like interrupting
the parenting comes in. And
the parenting
you come in as a teacher, and especially of philosophy. What is the basis of philosophy?
Yeah, it's wonder. Yeah, wonder, curiosity.
Yeah,
that's right.
What's the best way to live? What's the best way to think? What should I think of this?
Knowledge. It's love of knowledge.
Now listen to me. Listen to this. Hugely important to me. I had the occasion to talk to the guy a gentleman who was in charge of the most sophisticated computer, artificial intelligence computer that it's been fed everything that's been written in English.
Wow.
Okay. So when it came to the questions of, okay, 2 + 2, the computer says 4. But when it came to amorphous questions like, what is love? What is justice? The computer then spits back what a professor of philosophy would teach you. So then when we, after we've assimilated that knowledge, are asked what is justice, we're spitting back what we were told by a teacher, who was told by another teacher, who was told by another teacher.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the difference between us and a sophisticated computer?
I don't know that there's a hell of a lot of difference. Is there? I mean, it's like there must be.
I think the computer in that case doesn't know what it's saying. Like it scrapes the English language, like you said, for what everybody said about love, and then it puts that together in a way that makes sense grammatically.
But at the same,
do that?
At the same token, do your students know what they're talking about?
But
okay, good point.
No, my question too isn't that just what we're doing? I'm scraping together what I know.
Unless you have felt great passion.
That's it. That's the difference.
The difference is whether those human beings have had the sentience, be able to talk about the feeling.
That's it. So that it might sound the same on the top, but what you're disguising with the language are these felt emotional memories, whereas the computer just has the top language. It has
but how do we know?
Please go ahead.
No. But how do we know that? I don't think it should be. Frankly, I think you should be here every goddamn week.
Yes, it's your show.
But here's the thing, and I keep referencing this guy that I talked to once, who was an anthropologist.
At a bus station?
Yeah, like in a bus station somewhere in Cincinnati. I talked to a guy though who said to me that when the AI, when these things really start developing, we're not going to know we're not going to be able to tell if they're sentient or not. So I'm always looking at this shit and going, how the hell do I know this thing isn't sentient underneath it? How do I know it's not actually having some kind of feel? Right. I mean, you can tell me, it's all neural, and whatever, and digital.
What's the result? So say it becomes sentient. Now what's the next problem or step?
I think it's more dangerous now than if it becomes sentient because now an AI, if you gave an AI a command like, I want you to make the best paper clips you can, it starts making paper clips. Then it takes over the military computers and it's like, I'm going to shut down the military so I can make better paper clips. It doesn't know that it's like hurting anybody. It's like, if I wipe out these humans, I can make the best paper clips ever. And it doesn't have sentience, but it's way more dangerous because it just blindly follows the algorithm.
So now it's sentient. Now it feels anguish.
I don't think it does.
You'll say it has a conscience. You'll say it gets
to that point. What now is the difference?
I think Then
make paper clips, and you really feel anguish. Make paper clips. Now what?
Then it would be. Then there wouldn't be much difference.
Right.
I think that's right.
Oh my God! I've wiped out the military, but I'm still making.
Yeah, that's everybody I know.
So it gains a conscience in some way too, is what it does.
It could is something else which is indefinable. I mean, what is conscience?
Consciousness? You mean like just the ability?
Well, that's two things.
Like guilty.
Talk about conscience. Not consciousness, which
why? Why do we feel guilty about things?
Right.
Because your parents.
So why do we feel guilty?
No, but it's an interesting thing. I remember taking a philosophy class. I actually remember this, even though I dropped a ton of acid. I remember taking a philosophy class in college where the first thing the guy opened up with was talking about original sin. And he was like, can you define what they did wrong, though? Like, what's wrong? So you gained this guilty conscience, but why? Why do you have this? Why do we feel guilt? Why do we walk around with all this guilt?
Well, what is the apple in the serpent's mouth is that's sex, isn't it?
I guess is that what it is? Is it sex? Well, is that what they learned that we can have sex?
That's what the knowledge. Shame.
That's what. So the knowledge was
fusion or no. They
but in a sense, what they got was curiosity.
That was punished, immediately punished. Curiosity was punished.
In a sense, they gained, but it's true though. In a sense, they gained.
Eve, he said, "Why did I do that?"
Right. Well, they gained this yearning. They gained this kind of pining, this erotic thing we're talking about that leads you to want to have wisdom and stuff like that,
and
right?
Sex.
And so why's that? So why's that wrong when we know that everything's not going to progress without it? Why the fuck?
It's only beautiful. So why is that wrong?
Why is it wrong?
Well, it's not. What's wrong?
Listen, if only you'd been around, you could have just, Right.
Well,
the body is okay.
Control. It's a form of control. How else do you control them?
So that's what conscience is.
And their best
you create a conscience in someone by making them feel guilty.
Well, but Freud said, look, if you allow, what you're trying to do is like you come out of the womb and you're just a little hedonistic machine. You're trying to get as much pleasure as possible. Then your parents like spank you and say, don't do this and don't do that. And then you install your parents in your head like a little policeman. And what that allows you to do is repress your own, pleasure drive. And he says that's what you need in order to live with other people. You can't just do whatever you want. You have to then get a guilty conscience, so you'll repress yourself a little bit. And he says that's the start of civilization.
But also, an interesting thing about
he's been disproved on a lot of things, hasn't he?
Yes.
Is now in his sunset.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
but not this thing.
Right.
I'm holding on.
What are you going to say, Paul? I'm sorry.
No. It's just interesting because it's like you repress that sexual impulse. Yeah, it's interesting. But it makes me think about, as you were talking about, if we only thought about death all the time, too, it might actually impel us to be more loving and open, too. So that's something we repress, too.
Yeah,
interestingly.
That was my point in saying we're all dying and we should all be conscious of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you an existentialist, Bill? You sound like an existentialist.
Well, I don't know exactly what that means.
Neither do I. And what does it actually mean?
Well, it's just what you said. It's like if you think about your own death and that you're not going to live forever, then all of a sudden your life becomes more meaningful. You have to pay attention to it.
So that's
the moment.
That's the definition of existentialism?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, when you take logic to death, then, so we're like the higher animal. We've got a soul. And we measured it, it's 2 grams or something or other. So we got a soul. My dogs are just beautiful. I love my dogs. They love me. Do my dogs have a soul? Does the horse?
I think they do.
Does the bonobo? Does the bonobo?
I think they do.
Love?
Yeah, I think they do.
So nothing dies.
What's that?
Nothing dies. Work your way down the chain.
Yeah.
A parrot? Does an orca? Does a wolf? I mean, then you work your way down to what we think is higher or lower intelligence, and everything that exists, including the trees and the grass, have an impulse for life and what we could term love.
Yeah. And you think that that impulse in some way doesn't die beyond people?
Well, I if it doesn't, you gotta the universe is filled with a lot of stuff. And at what point does that manifest itself?
Interesting.
What it was, but mom and dad, I'm going to go see mom and dad. Well, you've then confined your mom and dad to their age when they died to being 70 or 80 years old, and you're still your youthful self. You come into heaven, and they're your aged parents. And
but that's that fantasy of heaven is a place where we all go. And
the fantasy continues. Why should everything goes back into the syrup? Everything goes back into the refinery. Comes out as atoms and energy and refurbished.
I
believe that. I buy that.
But that's just energy, like that. I believe that too. But then I don't think your personality. It's just like heat or energy goes into another system. But is there going to be is there going to be Bill Shatner's personality in something else later? That's where I heard
three people say just now, I hope not. No, exactly. What is the personality?
But a lot of traditions would say that underneath that, there's nothing. That's all just ephemeral bullshit that's collected around us, and that actually we're just nothing.
Isn't ephemeral bullshit? And that's E equals MC squared.
I guess so. It's all I think
the Buddhists are like, it's all ephemeral, but I mean, the Jewish, Christian, Muslim tradition says the soul is eternal.
You come back.
Well, in reincarnation, right?
Your wheel of life, and you come back.
Yeah.
Do you believe that? Do you buy that reincarnation at all, or do you think that doesn't make much sense?
I don't. I'm sadly, I'd love to think that everything goes on. I'm sadly convinced we die.
That's it.
I've written a song. It's in the latest album coming out called Shatner Live at Kennedy Center. About I want to be a tree
or something.
Right. I want to be a tree.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because you're gonna be a tree, and that's. I mean.
Well, I'm going to be buried. They're going to put a tree, a redwood, on top of me, and my body will nourish that tree for as long as it's possible, and the tree will grow.
And that's
your legacy.
And that seems like the most, that's you continuing on to something, and then the tree.
Something useful, rather than a headstone, an occupation of a square yardage of land that should be used to grow food.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I'd like to do that myself. That's nice.
I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I think that's an amazing idea too. Steve was talking the other day about in some Buddhist traditions, they feed you to vultures.
Yeah, right. Like that's the sky burial.
But that's also like, I think that's just as useful too. It's like, to feed you to animals.
Religions. I think it was the Vikings, wasn't it? I mean, they burned the boat, but I think it was a religion that allowed the animals to feed on you. That you place yourself back into nature.
Yeah.
How about the Kalahari tribe, where if you don't contribute to the tribe, you wander off into the desert?
They force you to wander off into the desert?
No, it's part of the culture. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got to leave because I'm not pulling my weight.
I say food
that the baby should have.
I'm not a useful member of society, so I should leave.
I should leave and die a peaceful death, looking at the sky and breathing my last.
Amazing.
Having a vulture fly over you. All these crazy things, and
it only gets crazier the further we look at this stuff. The more completely
the you look at it, the crazier it gets.
The crazier it is.
And yet, Paul, it has to be a unifying theory. It
does there?
Absolutely.
I suppose there does.
It can't be chaos.
Why not?
I guess not.
Because God or the
doesn't play dice.
Wouldn't laugh in the middle of the play.
Genius!
He nails it.
So you essentially think the play is frozen. And you can't, wow, that's interesting.
There's a plot going on.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess. I mean, the idea that everything is changeable and in flux to me, which is the basis of everything you're saying right now, is the thing that makes the most sense to me. You can't pin a fucking thing down. I can't even pin myself down. I don't even know what the fuck right now I'm saying and thinking all this stuff, but 5 minutes from now, I'll be a different person.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
You're a different person. You're a different person. How long have we been here?
Ages.
Days.
My beard is getting gray. No, yours is already gray.
Right? Oh my God. I'm gray.
When we started, it was brown.
No, it's terrible. Like I said, it's next year already. Well, we have been here a long time. Maybe we should stop.
We'll have to.
Maybe we should
wrap it up.
Jesus, shall we wrap it up? I'm exhausted too, but that was amazing.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Like post-coital
Yes.
Smoke a cigarette.
It really is. I feel like, God damn, that feels good. But this was an amazing
You got to do this
thing.
again. Like,
Yes,
nice.
that would be. That would be
do
awesome.
this.
What do they call it? What's men have to re-energize? What's it called?
I don't know.
When you have an orgasm, and then the older you are, the longer it takes.
The longer it takes. What is that period of time called?
No, it's called.
There's a name for that.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, there's a name for the
rejuvenation.
It takes you to reload in a
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
It's like refractoring or
I just thought it was called a long time. That's all. I just thought it was called maybe it's not going to happen. I don't know.
It's called eons.
Totally. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
A delight.
There's been some discussion on this episode of Chinwag of recreational drug use and the consumption of alcoholic beverages.
Yeah. And we would never condone such activity. We do not suggest any of our listeners engage in it whatsoever. It was a purely hypothetical, theoretical conversation.
All of it just for fun. Thanks for joining us on Chinwag. And of course, if you like what we're doing, and even if you don't, especially if you don't, I like a little lively debate. I'd like to get into it with you people. How about you write to us? Because we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, the Giamatti, the pugilist. Look, send your questions or comments to questions@chinwagpod.fm, or if you have a topic you want us to cover and it's strange enough, then maybe we'll talk about it here on this very podcast. Chinwag is a production of Treefort Media and Touchy Feely Films, hosted and executive produced by Paul Giamatti and Stephen Asma. Executive producers for Treefort are Kelly Garner and Lisa Ammerman. Dan Carey is executive producer for Touchy Feely. Our series producer is Rachel Whitley Bernstein. Associate producer is Andrew Miller. Original theme music by Luke Topp, with additional music by Via Mardot. Oscar Guido is our executive in charge of production. Tom Monahan is head of audio for Treefort. Animation created by Alex Sokol. Audio production, supervision, and editing by Maxwell Carney. Additional audio assistance and mixing by Jeff Neal. Video editing by Brian Barczewski, with additional production management from Renee Levesque. Lastly, for more information, go to chinwagpod.fm and find us on Instagram or TikTok @chinwagpod or on Twitter @chinwag_pod.